It wasn't the hangover that woke me. It was the silence. The kind of eerie, pressurized quiet that made my ears ring and my heart slam against my ribs, like it was warning me. My mouth tasted like tequila, regret, and something sweet I couldn't place, maybe wedding cake. I blinked, rolled over, and froze. That wasn't my hotel room. That wasn't even my dress. I was wearing silk. Ivory silk. A strap had slipped off my shoulder, and my bare legs tangled in thousand-thread count sheets. And lying next to me, calmly scrolling through her phone with the patience of someone who did this all the time, was the most obscenely beautiful woman I had ever seen. Alessia. That was her name. I remembered now. Her voice like smoke and sex, her laugh low in my ear, her hand on my back as we danced in the velvet-lit haze of that exclusive lounge. I remembered tequila shots, laughter echoing off marble walls, a dare from my best friend Tiff, and the feeling of Alessia's lips brushing mine just before… Oh God. There was a ring on my finger. A wedding ring. I shot up so fast, I nearly fell off the bed.
No. No.
No, no, no. Alessia looked up, one dark brow lifting, impossibly composed in nothing but an oversized black silk robe. Her long black hair fell over her shoulder in a way that looked both effortless and criminally expensive. You're awake, she said, her accent thick and smooth, Italian, but laced with danger. And loud. I stumbled out of bed, almost slipping on my own heels from last night, and spotted the thing that made my stomach drop straight to the floor. On the glass table, beneath a bottle of champagne and 2 empty glasses, was a marriage certificate. Our names were on it. Tell me this is a joke, I croaked. It is many things, she said, standing slowly, the robe parting just enough to make me blush and hate myself for it. But not a joke. I grabbed the paper like it might bite me. Madison Carter and Alessia Vittoria Romano, legally married in the state of Nevada. I stared at it, heart racing. This can't be real. It's very real. Alessia was watching me, like a predator amused by the panic of her prey. You signed it. Twice, actually. Because I was drunk. I cried. I didn't even know your last name. Her expression didn't change. And yet, here we are. I paced the room like a wild animal. My head throbbed. My skin felt too tight. We can get an annulment. We will get an annulment. This is insane. This can't. This won't be real tomorrow. You could do that, Alessia said. If you leave now. Today. I turned to her. Of course I'm leaving. I have a life.
A job. Friends.
I'm not staying married to a… I stopped.
Wait.
Wait a second. The name Romano finally clicked. Romano, as in the Romano crime family? She tilted her head, the ghost of a smile curling on her lips. You really didn't Google me, did you? Oh my God. I stumbled back. You're a Mafia heiress. Her smile widened. Technically, I'm the head of the family now. I laughed. It was that unhinged kind of laugh, the kind that came right before a mental breakdown. This is a nightmare. She crossed the room in 3 slow steps, suddenly very close. You didn't seem to think so last night. In fact, if I recall correctly, you said, and I quote, "Let's do something so stupid we'll never forget it." I wanted to scream.
Cry.
Maybe faint. But you're in luck, Alessia added. Because I happen to find you incredibly inconvenient. I blinked. Excuse me? You're not supposed to be here. She was.
But you?
You were unexpected. She looked me over like I was a puzzle she hadn't planned for. But not unwelcome. What are you talking about? Who was supposed to be here? She turned away, and just like that, the softness, if you could call it that, was gone. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Alessia picked up a glass, poured herself more champagne. I needed a wife. You happen to be brave, drunk, and just reckless enough to say yes. My stomach turned. So you used me? Her eyes met mine. Dark and impenetrable. That depends on what you think I'm using you for. I didn't have an answer. I didn't even know what was real. I reached for the certificate again, and that's when I saw the gold embossed seal. My name. Her name. The timestamp. 2:46 a.m. less than 6 hours ago. You need to sign annulment papers, I said, my voice shaking. I won't. You have to. No, her voice was firm now. Final. I won't. My mouth opened and closed. Why? She walked toward me, slow and deliberate, until I could feel the heat of her breath. Because if I don't come back to Sicily married, my father will force me into a union I won't survive. I chose you, Madison. And whether you like it or not, you chose me. My heart was racing. My pulse thundered in my ears. You don't even know me. Then give me a chance to learn. Her gaze dropped to my lips for half a second. You have two choices. Run or stay married to me for 30 days. Just long enough to convince them it's real. Then you walk away, untouched, and you never hear from me again. It sounded simple. Too simple. But the air around her buzzed with danger. And something else. Something magnetic. I hated how drawn I felt to her, how the ground tilted when she looked at me like that. 30 days, I said, numb. 30 days, she echoed. And with that, the deal was struck. But I had no idea what I'd just agreed to, or how hard it would be to walk away from the most dangerous woman I'd ever met. If I'd hoped for time to breathe, to think, to process the fact that I had accidentally married into a literal mafia family, Alessia had other plans. 45 minutes after I agreed to the 30-day arrangement, I found myself in the back of a black Rolls-Royce with tinted windows, speeding through the sun-soaked chaos of the Las Vegas Strip. Alessia sat beside me, legs crossed, phone in hand, radiating that quiet, impenetrable power that made people instinctively shrink around her. I sat frozen, clutching my purse like it might save me, still wearing the silk dress from last night, or from our wedding, apparently, and feeling the aftershocks of whatever cosmic mistake I'd made. Where are we going? I finally asked. My voice sounded small, like I was 12 again, calling my mom from a sleepover I regretted. Alessia didn't look up. Brunch. Brunch. You need food. A shower. Clothes that don't look like they belong to a morning after meme. And you're going to meet Enzo and Marcella.
Who?
Enzo is my head of security. Marcella is my assistant. Your assistant? I repeated. As in, hi, I'm Madison, and I'm married to a mafia boss, and here's her assistant. She turned to me slowly, like a panther indulging a mouse. You can stay in this car and pout like a child, or you can sit up, pull yourself together, and walk into that hotel with your head high. It's your choice, Mogli Mia. I didn't speak Italian, but I knew enough to understand my wife. The way she said it made my skin heat. I hated that. I hated that I was reacting to her at all. To her voice, her presence, the subtle pull between us that I hadn't been able to shake since the moment we met. I pressed my lips together and looked out the window. This was just a game. 30 days. Get through it, go home, forget the whole thing.
Easy.
The car pulled up to a private entrance of the Bellagio, where two men in suits waited. One opened the door, and Alessia stepped out like royalty. I hesitated, then followed. I could feel them watching me. Not just the suited men, everyone. The hotel staff. The other guests. It wasn't just Alessia's beauty or the quiet way she commanded attention. It was something deeper, something dangerous. And then there was me, a girl from Portland with a journalism degree and bad luck, walking into a 5-star hotel in last night's dress, wearing a diamond ring that didn't belong to me. Or maybe it did now. Alessia's assistant, Marcella, was a sharply dressed brunette with cat-like eyes and the kind of smile that told me she knew everything. Enzo, on the other hand, looked like he'd eaten bodyguards for breakfast and carried a gun as casually as most people carried a phone. So this is the Maddie, Marcella said, giving me an amused once-over as we entered a private dining suite. Our new principessa. Don't call me that, I muttered, cheeks burning. Alessia said nothing, only gestured for me to sit. The table was covered in food, smoked salmon, pastries, fruit, espresso. My stomach turned at the thought of eating, but I grabbed a croissant for show. You could have just told me who you were, I said quietly, not looking at her. Last night. At the bar. And you would have walked away, she replied, sipping her espresso. Yes, I snapped. Exactly. Which is why I didn't. You tricked me. You kissed me first. That shut me up. I had kissed her first. I'd been drawn to her from the moment she walked into the lounge. Her presence, her eyes, the way she looked at me like she already knew what I tasted like. I was drunk, I said, but it didn't sound as convincing as I wanted it to. And now you're sober, she said, and still here. Only because you gave me no choice. I gave you 30 days, she said calmly. You said yes. You didn't exactly give me time to think it through. And yet, Alessia said, rising from her seat, you're still wearing the ring. My hand twitched at the reminder, but I didn't take it off. Not yet. I didn't know why. Maybe I was scared of what would happen if I did. Maybe part of me wanted to know where this path led, the part of me that had always chased stories, risked too much, felt too much. You'll come to the villa with me tomorrow, Alessia said, adjusting the cuff of her jacket. Villa? In Sicily. My heart stopped. You're taking me to Italy? You agreed to 30 days. My life is not here. It's there. But my life is here. Not anymore. The silence that followed was sharp. Marcella gave me a sympathetic glance. Enzo just looked amused. Do I even have a passport? I asked, but I already knew the answer. You applied for an expedited one last night, Alessia said, finally cracking a smile. You were very insistent. You've got to be kidding me. You also demanded champagne, threatened to marry the next woman who danced with you, and then did exactly that. I buried my face in my hands. I'm going to die. Alessia's voice softened.
No, Maddie.
You're going to live. For the first time in your life, I think. And the way she said it, like she saw right through me, like she knew exactly how stuck I'd felt in my boring, predictable life, made something twist inside me. I didn't want her to be right, but she was. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of silence and tension and impossible luxury. Alessia sent someone to my hotel with a suitcase full of designer clothes that actually fit me, booked a full spa service I didn't ask for, and had Marcella personally walk me through the flight plans. Private jet. Armed guards. Custom wardrobe. This wasn't marriage. This was a transaction. And yet, every time our eyes met, something sparked. Every time our hands brushed, I felt it, that low, electric hum of attraction, dangerous and sharp. I didn't know if it was real or if I was just losing my mind. But I knew one thing. I couldn't stop thinking about the way she'd looked at me when she said you chose me. I didn't know if it was a promise or a warning. Maybe both. The next morning, I stood on the steps of the private jet, wind in my hair, ring still on my finger, and looked at Alessia. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Ready, Mogli Mia? She asked. I took a deep breath and stepped into the storm. The Sicilian sun didn't just shine, it burned. It poured over the cliffs and vineyards with a kind of golden ferocity that made the air shimmer and my skin prickle with heat the moment I stepped out of the jet. I wasn't ready for any of it. Not the blinding brightness of the sky, not the scent of citrus and salt in the wind, not the view of the endless hills rolling toward the sea, and especially not the sleek black convoy waiting for us on the tarmac, guarded by men in dark suits and mirrored sunglasses who looked like they belonged in some high-budget thriller. Alessia didn't flinch. She descended the steps ahead of me, posture regal, sunglasses on, her long black coat fluttering behind her like a shadow. She didn't say a word, just walked straight into the heart of power like she owned it. Because she did. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. Is this really your life? I muttered under my breath as I caught up, the heels she'd given me sinking into the tarmac. You're late. A man barked in Italian before I could say more. Older. Silver hair. Sharp eyes. He was waiting by the car, tall, lean, and so cold I shivered despite the heat. Alessia's jaw clenched. Traffic, she said coolly, switching to Italian. I didn't understand most of it, but I recognized the tension. The threat beneath every syllable. The man's eyes slid to me, and I instantly felt like I was being scanned.
Judged. Dismissed.
"So this is the American," he said. "Madison Carter." Alessia replied, her tone a steel blade in velvet. "My wife." That word again. That impossible, surreal, dangerous word. The man gave a cold laugh and muttered something about a Mary Kane impulsive before turning to get into the car. Alessia didn't look at me until we were seated inside, separated by thick tinted glass from the driver. "That was my uncle," she said flatly. "He thinks I've lost my mind." "Have you?" I asked. She smiled without humor. "If I have, it's too late now." The drive up the coast was long, winding, and silent. I stared out the window, trying to process everything. The way the land opened into lush vineyards and crumbling stone villas, the sea glittering on the horizon, the fact that I was married to a Mafia heiress and being driven to her ancestral home like I was part of some twisted fairy tale. It felt like a fever dream. Alessia didn't speak. Not even when we passed through the tall iron gates of the Romano estate, a sprawling fortress of marble, stone, and roses that sat on the edge of a cliff like it was daring the world to challenge it. Armed guards flanked the entrance. Surveillance cameras tracked every angle. And the second we stepped out of the car, a half-dozen staff members appeared out of nowhere to take our bags. I wasn't prepared for how big it was, or how cold. It didn't matter that the floors gleamed or that there were priceless paintings on every wall. The house felt like it had been built on secrets and blood. A woman with silver hair and sharp cheekbones approached us in the grand entryway, her heels echoing like gunshots. "Alessia," she said with a tight smile. "Your father is waiting." Alessia nodded. "This is Madison." "Yes, we've heard." Her gaze flicked over me like I was some strange bug that had flown in through the window. "Welcome to Villa Romano." It didn't feel like a welcome, more like a warning. Alessia took my hand. I nearly jumped at the contact. Her skin was warm, her grip firm, and the way she threaded her fingers through mine made my chest tighten for reasons I didn't want to name. "You don't have to be afraid," she said quietly as we walked. "Of what?"
Them.
"I'm not afraid of them," I lied. "I'm afraid of you." Her lips twitched, but she said nothing. The dining hall was massive. A long table stretched across the room, flanked by chairs carved from dark wood and inlaid with gold. At the head of the table sat a man I instantly knew was him, Vittorio Romano, Alessia's father. He was broader than I expected, his silver hair slicked back, his hands folded on the table like a judge waiting to deliver a sentence. His eyes, dark, unreadable, landed on me, and I felt something inside me lock up. "So," he said in thickly accented English, "this is what you chose instead of fulfilling your duty." "This," Alessia said, pulling out a chair for me, "is my wife." I sat stiffly, hands in my lap, pulse thudding in my ears. "I didn't mean to," I started, but Alessia cut me off with a look. Vittorio sipped his wine. "Tell me, Madison, what do you know of honor?" "Dad," Alessia warned. He ignored her. "What do you know of sacrifice? Of loyalty?" "I know enough to recognize when someone's trying to intimidate me," I said, surprising even myself. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "You have spirit. That will either save you or get you killed." "Father." Alessia's voice dropped, lethal. "Enough." The air in the room thickened, but he didn't push.
Not then.
Dinner passed in strained silence, with dishes I couldn't pronounce and wine that tasted like it cost more than my apartment. When it was over, Alessia led me upstairs to a bedroom bigger than my entire house, with a balcony overlooking the ocean. "You'll stay here," she said, closing the door behind us. "And you?" Across the hall. "Separate rooms?" That's not very convincing for a married couple. "We're not here to convince the staff. Just my father, and the ones who report to him." "Who don't include your assistant and your armed goon squad?" "Marcella and Enzo would die before betraying me," she said simply. "I trust them with my life." I crossed my arms. "And me?" Alessia stepped closer. I barely know." I swallowed hard. "Right." She reached up, brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. Her fingers lingered just a second too long. But I want to. The silence between us pulsed. Heavy. Magnetic. I hated how much I felt it, the gravity between our bodies, the way the space seemed to disappear even when she wasn't touching me. "Good night, Mowgli Mia," she whispered, stepping back. And then she was gone. I stood there, heart pounding, wondering what the hell I had gotten myself into. Wondering why I didn't want to run. Not yet. Not tonight. The morning in Villa Romano didn't start with an alarm or birdsong or any soft domestic normalcy I might have once called routine. It started with a knock. 3 sharp, deliberate taps on the thick wooden door of the suite Alessia had assigned me, followed by Marcella's clipped voice saying my name like I was already late for something. I opened the door in one of the silk robes Alessia had insisted on including in my suitcase, only to be met with Marcella's perfectly arched brow and a garment bag held out like an offering. "Dress code tonight is formal," she said, already turning on her heel. 6 p.m. sharp. Alessia will brief you. I barely had time to ask what was happening before she disappeared down the hallway, her heels echoing like gunshots. I shut the door slowly, then turned to look at the bag. The tag was embossed in gold, Dolce & Gabbana. Of course. The gown inside was deep emerald, smooth as water and impossibly fitted, the kind of dress that whispered power with every thread. I was still staring at it when a soft knock came, this one slower, more hesitant. Alessia. She entered in tailored slacks and a black silk blouse, hair pinned back, every inch the heiress of crime and couture. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said mildly. "Am I going to one?" I shot back. She smiled faintly, then walked past me into the room like she owned it, which I guess she did.
"There's a gala tonight," she said.
My father's way of showing the world that Romano is still a name to be feared. That I am untouchable. That I have a wife. I cross my arms. So I'm a prop. "You're more than that," she said, voice lower now. "But yes, for tonight, you're my wife."
Publicly.
Physically. Convincingly. My throat went dry. "And what does convincingly mean to you?" She turned slowly, her eyes catching mine, and the look that passed between us was so loaded I felt it in my spine. "It means you'll stay by my side.
You'll smile when I speak.
You'll let me touch you when eyes are watching. And if someone asks about us, you'll answer like you know me better than anyone else on earth." I swallowed hard, pulse thundering. "Right. We leave at 6, she said, brushing a hand along the sleeve of the gown as she passed me. "You'll be stunning. Try not to start a war." Then she was gone, again like smoke.
I didn't know why she affected me like this.
Why her voice could unhinge my spine, or why I woke up thinking of her. Even when I hated her. Even when I swore I'd leave the second this 30-day madness ended. But I got dressed. And when Alessia came to retrieve me, looking devastating in a black tux with satin lapels and a silver watch that probably cost more than my student loans, she didn't say a word.
She just looked at me.
And the look wasn't quiet. It burned. The gala was held in the grand ballroom of the estate, high ceilings painted with frescoes, gold chandeliers, music echoing through marble. The room was full of power. Men and women in designer suits and gowns, wine glasses swirling in hands that had signed more death warrants than dinner checks. And then there was me. Alessia's fingers found mine the moment we entered, warm and deliberate. I didn't fight it. She leaned close, lips brushing the shell of my ear. "Don't look so terrified. They can smell fear." "Good to know," I whispered. "Next time I'm married off to the Mafia, I'll keep that in mind." She chuckled softly, the sound sending a chill down my neck. "You're doing better than I expected. Maybe I'm just a great actress." "Or maybe," she said, her fingers tightening slightly around mine, "you're starting to see me." That scared me more than any gun in the room. The night blurred into a performance. Alessia introduced me to people with names I couldn't pronounce and reputations I didn't want to Google. She held me close when she spoke to rivals, her hand firm on the small of my back like a warning to the world. I played the role. I smiled. I laughed at her dry sarcasm. I sipped champagne I couldn't pronounce. And I hated how natural it all felt. Until it didn't. Because halfway through the evening, I saw her.
Tall. Blonde.
Red dress like fire. She walked straight up to Alessia, like she owned part of her. "So this is the wife." She purred in Italian. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the tone and the history behind her eyes. Alessia stiffened beside me. "Chiara," she said. Her voice had changed, tight.
Controlled.
My stomach dropped. "Old friend?" I asked under my breath. "Ex," Alessia replied without looking at me. "Dangerous." Chiara's gaze flicked to me, and whatever she saw made her smile widen. "I suppose you traded up," she said in English this time, her accent sharp. "But she doesn't look like she knows how to survive in your world." "She's learning," Alessia said. "Fast." "I bet she is." Chiara leaned in, kissed both Alessia's cheeks like she had a right to. Alessia didn't react. But I did. I grabbed her hand. Hard. Just enough to send a message. "Mine." Chiara noticed.
Of course she did.
She tilted her head and smiled. "I give it a month," she said, "before she breaks or bolts." "Then you don't know her at all," Alessia replied smoothly. "She's stronger than you." I didn't know whether to feel flattered or manipulated. But as Chiara walked away, I realized my hand was still in Alessia's. Still gripping. Still burning. "Do you still love her?" I asked before I could stop myself. Alessia's eyes met mine. "No." "Do you miss her?" "No." "Do you think about her when you look at me?" "Only when I want to remember what not to want." I should have hated that answer. But I didn't. Because something in her eyes said she meant it. Something in her voice told me she was done looking back. And maybe, just maybe, starting to look at me. We danced once. Just once. Because her father demanded it. Because appearances mattered. Because every eye was on us. But when Alessia's hand slid around my waist and our bodies aligned, something shifted. Something pulled tight between us and didn't let go. "You're not bad at this," I said, breathless. "I've had practice," she murmured. "With ex-lovers or future hostages?" "You'll have to stay past 30 days to find out. Don't tempt me." Too late. And the moment our eyes locked, I knew I was doomed. Because no amount of logic, no amount of planning, could erase the way my heart beat when she looked at me like I was already hers. The ballroom lights still danced behind my eyelids when Alessia took my hand. It wasn't for show anymore. The crowd was behind us, the eyes, the whispers, the expectations, all fading as we slipped through a narrow hallway away from the grand staircase, away from the opulence, and into the bones of the house. Her grip was warm, steady, unrelenting. I followed without asking where we were going. I didn't want to ruin the moment with words. The hallway narrowed into stone, colder with every step. The walls aged, rougher, untouched by luxury. It felt like we were walking into the mansion's memory. "Where are we going?" I asked finally. "Somewhere no one will follow." "That's not terrifying at all," I muttered. She didn't smile, but her thumb brushed over mine. Barely noticeable. "Trust me, Maddie." 2 words. Soft. Heavy. I didn't know if I did. But I didn't let go. We reached a door. Wood. Old, iron-braced. She pulled out a key from beneath her blouse, hidden on a chain I hadn't noticed. The lock clicked open with a reluctant groan. Cold air hit me like a whisper. Alessia stepped in first, flipped on a small brass switch, and the lights hummed to life, low, warm, glowing across rows and rows of bottles nestled in ancient stone. "A wine cellar," I said, breath catching.
No.
"A vault," she corrected, voice quiet. "This belonged to my grandfather. He built it during the war. Kept his secrets down here. His silence. His survival." I walked further in, my heels clicking softly. The room smelled like dust, oak, and something deeper. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because no one else has ever seen it." My breath caught. She moved past me, walked along the walls like she knew them by heart, fingers trailing labels older than either of us. "I come here when I need to think. Or to forget." "And tonight?" I asked. "Which is it?" She turned to face me, her expression unreadable. Both. I leaned back against the stone wall, arms crossed, heart pounding. You have a strange way of flirting. Do you think that's what I'm doing? I think you've been doing it since Vegas. And you've been letting me. My cheeks burned. I hated how true that felt. She stepped closer. Not touching. Just near. Pick one, she said, gesturing to the rows of wine. Whatever calls to you. They're all in Italian. Good. Let your instincts choose. I scanned the bottles, heart racing for no reason at all. Finally, I picked one with a dusty red label and golden lettering. She took it from me, examined the year, nodded approvingly. Bold choice. That's what they say about me, I said, trying to sound flippant, even as my voice shook. She found 2 crystal glasses on a small wooden shelf, opened the bottle with practiced ease, and poured. We sat on the steps leading into the cellar's heart, the cool stone beneath us grounding, the light soft and dim like candle flame. She handed me a glass. Our fingers brushed. I tried not to react. I failed. We drank in silence. The wine was rich, deep, nothing like the cheap stuff I used to split with Tiff in our apartment kitchen. So, I said, swirling the glass, tell me something real. Alessia tilted her head. About what?
You.
Not the heiress. Not the mobster.
Just you.
She was quiet for a long time. Then, softly, when I was 16, I ran away. For 3 days. No one knew. I slept in an abandoned monastery in the hills. I didn't want to come back. Why did you? Because Enzo found me. Because my father said he'd burn the town until he did. Because I was too young to win. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't need to. I felt the weight anyway. I thought I wanted power.
Control.
But all I wanted was to breathe. I took another sip, watching her over the rim of my glass. You ever get that breath?
She looked at me.
Just looked. Maybe now. My pulse skipped. That's not fair, I said.
What?
Looking at me like that. Like what? Like you mean it. Her smile was slow. I do mean it. My heart was a drum. You can't just say things like that. Why not? Because I don't know what's real with you.
She leaned in. Slowly. Carefully.
Her lips just inches from mine. Then let me show you. I didn't move. I couldn't. My breath caught in my throat, and the glass in my hand trembled slightly. She reached up, gently took it from me, set it aside. Her fingers brushed mine again. The touch was electric. She was close enough to kiss. I wanted her to. God, I wanted. But instead of closing the distance, she paused. Eyes on me. Waiting. Tell me to stop, she whispered. I didn't. I couldn't. But I didn't say yes, either. I looked at her lips. Then her eyes. Then back again. My whole body leaned forward. Instinct, magnet, madness. And then at the last second I pulled back. Barely. Just enough to breathe. Just enough to break the spell. Not yet, I said, voice shaking. Her eyes darkened. But she didn't push. Okay. The moment broke, but the tension didn't. It hummed between us, sharp and hot. She sat back slightly, picked up her glass, and drank.
That was smart, she said.
Why does it feel like losing? I murmured. Her gaze lingered on me. Because it's not a no. And we both know it. We sat there a long time, finishing the wine. The cellar was silent.
Sacred.
I wanted to stay. I wanted to run. I wanted her to kiss me again, or finally. I wasn't sure which. When we finally stood, she didn't take my hand. But her fingers brushed my lower back as we walked, slow, unhurried. And when we reached the top of the stairs, she turned to me once more.
Soon, she said.
Not a question. A promise. And all I could do was nod. The headlines hit like a storm. American woman secretly marries Sicilian Mafia heiress in Las Vegas. Heiress to the Romano Empire ties the knot with mystery wife. From Bachelorette party to bloodlines, who is Madison Carter? My phone vibrated nonstop for hours, and by the time I dared check it, my inbox was a battlefield. Dozens of unread texts. Missed calls from Tiff, from my boss at the magazine, even from my ex. The world had noticed. And it wasn't going to forget. You said this would be quiet. I hissed at Alessia the next morning, pacing the massive study lined with old books and older secrets. This isn't quiet. This is viral. I didn't leak it, she said calmly, lounging in one of the leather chairs, legs crossed, a glass of espresso untouched in her hand. My father did. I stopped. Why would he? Because he wants to test you. See how you perform under pressure. If you break, he'll demand an annulment. If you stay, he'll think I'm one of you. Or close enough to use. I sank into the seat across from her, rubbing my temples. This is insane. I'm not built for this. I write think pieces on gentrification and coffee culture. I don't know how to play this game. Alessia leaned forward. Then let me teach you. I looked up. Her eyes were steady, unyielding.
How?
We go to Palermo.
Today.
We take a walk. Have lunch. Smile for the cameras. Let them see us. Let them believe the fairy tale. So, you want to press her now? I want them to believe this marriage is real, and that you're strong enough to survive it. That sounds like a threat. It's a truth. I didn't answer, because part of me wanted to say yes. Part of me wanted to be seen with her, not as a pawn, not as her fake wife, but as someone who mattered. Palermo was a sun-drenched postcard come to life. Cobbled streets twisted between ancient buildings painted in warm ochres and soft pastels. The market buzzed with voices, spices, fish, flowers. Music drifted from open windows. It was beautiful, loud and alive, nothing like the cold perfection of the villa. Alessia walked beside me, dressed down in a linen shirt and slacks, sunglasses shielding her from the stares. But even dressed like a civilian, she couldn't hide what she was. People moved around her instinctively, drawn and wary at once. I stayed close. We stopped at a small cafe in a quiet plaza, sunlight warming the table. She ordered in rapid Italian, and the waiter nearly bowed before hurrying away. Do people always do that? I asked. What? Act like you might kill them if their espresso's too cold. They know who I am. Who are you really? The same person I was in the wine cellar. I looked at her. I don't know if I believe that version. Because you want to believe the worst, she said, voice low. It's easier. You scare me, I admitted. Because of my family?
No.
Because I can't tell if you're breaking me apart or putting me back together. Her gaze sharpened. What if I'm doing both? The waiter returned with espresso and pastries. Alessia leaned back, watching me across the table like she was memorizing every reaction. The camera's on us, she murmured without moving her lips. Behind you. I stiffened. She reached across the table and took my hand, slow, deliberate. Relax, she said. This is the performance. But it didn't feel like performance. Not the warmth of her hand. Not the way her thumb traced slow circles on my skin. Not the way our eyes locked. I forgot the camera. I forgot the script. Smile, she said softly. Like you're falling in love. What if I am? I whispered. Her breath caught. Just for a second. She squeezed my hand. Then don't stop. We walked the narrow streets after lunch, Alessia's hand on my waist, her body close. The city swallowed us, heat and light and noise. But between us, there was a stillness. Like the world had fallen away. Tell me something no one knows about you, I said as we passed a bookstore. When I was 13, she said, I stole a ring from my mother's jewelry box and buried it under an olive tree.
Why?
Because I hated what it meant. Obedience. Marriage. Control. You buried a symbol. I buried my fear. Did it work? I never found the ring again.
We stopped at a fountain.
I touched the cool stone, looked at her. You've lived 100 lives in one. And you're still here. For now. Why? I didn't know how to answer. Or maybe I didn't want to say it out loud. But I stepped closer. Close enough that my chest brushed hers. Because I want to be. Alessia's hand slid up my arm. Then let me give you something real. The air pulsed between us. My breath tangled in my throat. And this time, Neither of us hesitated. Her lips brushed mine, barely, softly, like a question. I answered with a sigh, leaning in, closing the space. The kiss was slow, measured, like we were both afraid to ruin it. Her hand cupped my jaw, thumb tracing the corner of my mouth, and I melted into her. Not because I was drunk, not because I was pretending, but because this was real. She pulled back first, eyes searching mine. "You taste like truth," she whispered. "That's the wine talking." "No," she said, brushing her nose against mine. "That's you." I didn't want to move. I didn't want the moment to end. But a sharp sound cracked the quiet, a car door slamming. Alessia's eyes narrowed instantly. Her body shifted, alert, protective. "Time to go," she said. "What is it?" "Nothing yet. But it might be something." She didn't let go of my hand as we moved back toward the car. And this time, when the cameras followed us, I didn't fake the way I looked at her. I didn't have to. The first sign that something was wrong came when Enzo refused to let us out of the car before circling the estate twice. Alessia noticed immediately, her voice low but sharp as she asked him what had changed. He didn't answer at first. He just drove, tense, jaw locked. When we finally stopped at the front of the villa, I could see it in Alessia's posture. Something was off. "What's going on?" I asked as we stepped out. "Nothing for you to worry about," she said, but her hand found the small of my back again, guiding me quickly inside. The warmth from Palermo felt far away now. The sun had set, the sea breeze colder, heavier. Marcella was waiting just past the main doors, holding her phone like it might catch fire. She didn't even pretend to smile. "In the office," she said to Alessia. "It was delivered less than an hour ago. No prints. No origin." "What was?" I asked, heart already racing. No one answered me. Alessia didn't speak, just took my hand and led me through a series of doors I hadn't seen before. This part of the house was quieter, tighter. The walls thicker, colder. The office was behind 2 locked doors. Inside, it smelled of cigars, ink, and tension. On the desk, lit by a single green-shaded lamp, sat a manila envelope. Alessia didn't hesitate. She walked straight to it, opened it slowly, and pulled out 2 things, a photo and a note. The photo was of me. From that afternoon, smiling at the cafe, her hand in mine. The note was short, printed in bold block letters. "She's not safe. She's your weakness. We'll use her first." My blood went cold. "Alessia, you're not leaving this house," she said immediately. "Not without me. Not with anyone else. Not even Marcella." I took a step back, heart hammering. This is a threat. Yes. And it's about me. Yes. Why? She looked at me. Really looked. Because you matter to me now. And they know it. The words hit harder than they should have. I felt dizzy. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't. You didn't sign up for any of this, I know. Her voice softened, barely above a whisper. And I promised I'd protect you.
But now,
I don't know if I can keep you safe if you keep pretending this is just pretend. That stopped me. What are you saying? I'm saying I need you to take this seriously. I need you to see what this means. Being with me doesn't just come with danger, Maddie. It is danger. Then why bring me into it? She took a slow step toward me. Because I couldn't stop myself. I didn't breathe.
couldn't.
Not when she was looking at me like that. "I should go back," I whispered. "I should run." "Then run," she said. "But not tonight. Tonight, stay." The vulnerability in her voice cracked something in me. She wasn't giving orders anymore. She was asking, pleading, in her own quiet way. I nodded. Just once. Okay. She didn't smile. She just exhaled. And I realized she'd been holding her breath too. We didn't go back to our separate rooms. Alessia led me down a hall I hadn't seen before, through a doorway hidden behind a curtain, into a smaller wing of the villa. Old, untouched, filled with dust and silence. Her private quarters. Not the ones she used for appearances or business, but her real space. The walls were lined with books in several languages, Photos that looked like they belonged in a museum, and one large window that overlooked the ocean. The bedroom was minimalist. Dark wood, cool stone, deep navy sheets.
Safe.
Quiet. Intimate. She offered me a change of clothes, soft cotton, oversized, and I changed in the adjoining room. When I came back, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, barefoot, hair loose for the first time. She looked younger.
Softer.
Breakable. You okay? I asked, unsure how close I could get. She nodded, then patted the space beside her. I sat. Close, but not touching.
You know what they want, she said.
They want you afraid. They want me unstable. It's working.
She smiled, just barely.
That's why we can't let it. So, what do we do? I asked. We make them believe we're stronger together. Are we? Her eyes flicked to mine. Tell me the truth, Maddie. Do you want to be here? I looked at her. At the woman who had turned my world inside out, who made me question everything I thought I knew about love, trust, power. Yes, I said. But I'm scared. So am I, she admitted. And that admission was more intimate than any kiss. I leaned into her.
Slowly. Carefully.
My shoulder brushed hers. Then her hand found my thigh.
Light. Hesitant.
I didn't pull away. I turned to her. You don't have to be strong with me all the time, I whispered. I don't know how to be anything else. Then let me show you. Her lips parted, but she didn't kiss me. Not yet. Her hand moved to my face, fingers brushing my cheek, then my jaw. You're not what I expected, she murmured. What did you expect? Someone I could use. Someone who would disappear. Sorry to disappoint. You never did. My heart ached. The kind of ache that came from wanting something too much. Her forehead touched mine. Our breath mingled. Our hands tingled. And then we lay back, fully clothed, facing each other. The sheets cool between us. No kisses. No touches that crossed the line. Just presence. Just breath. Just the sound of her heart, finally not guarded. If anything ever happened to you, she whispered in the dark, I'd burn the world. I didn't answer. I just reached for her hand and held on like I meant it. I should have known it wouldn't last. The calm, the quiet, the fragile trust building between us like glass over fire. It was too delicate, too dangerous. And it shattered the moment I asked the wrong question to the wrong person. It started innocently. If anything in this house could be called innocent, I'd started spending more time with Marcella. She wasn't just Alessia's assistant. She was her right hand, her handler, her confidant. And unlike everyone else in this place, she didn't treat me like I was a ticking bomb or a stupid American who'd stumbled into something she didn't understand. She treated me like a person, a woman trying to survive something impossible. That morning, over coffee in the side garden, the only place I could breathe without bodyguards 3 feet behind me, Marcella sat across from me in dark sunglasses and a blazer that looked like it had been pressed by God himself. She's not sleeping, she said. She pretends, but I know. Because of the threat? I asked. Partly. And the rest? Marcella looked at me for a long time. You. I blinked. Me? You confuse her. That's rare. I sipped my coffee, trying to ignore the heat in my face. Do you think I'm making a mistake staying here? Yes, she said. But not for the reasons you think. So why? Because she's starting to want you.
And want is dangerous in this family.
It gets people killed. I swallowed.
Hard.
She says she's protecting me.
She is.
That doesn't mean she's clean. That sentence sat with me for hours. Alessia was many things. Terrifying, magnetic, unreadable. But clean?
No.
She lived in blood. Even when she touched me gently, I could feel it. The weight of what she carried. But I'd started to crave her anyway. That night, I found Marcella again. This time in the private archive beneath the library, organizing old files. She didn't look up when I entered. Do you know why she was in Vegas? I asked. She froze. Just a second. But it was enough. You're not supposed to ask that. That means I should. She sighed, then set the folder down. You really want to know? I deserve to. She turned to face me, and what I saw in her eyes wasn't cruelty. It was pity. She was supposed to meet someone, a woman her father approved of, from a connected family in New York. Powerful. Cold. Exactly what Vittoria wanted. I felt my chest tighten, and the woman backed out at the last second. Sent a message saying she wasn't coming. Alessia, she didn't take it well. So she went out? She went out looking for a replacement. Someone reckless. Someone she could claim. My heart dropped. You're saying I wasn't an accident? You were a surprise, Marcella corrected. But not a mistake.
She saw you.
She chose you. I shook my head, breath catching. She didn't tell me, because she thought she could bury it. Thought she could start over with you. And then you kissed her. And the plan stopped being a plan.
My throat was dry.
She planned to marry someone. Anyone. That night. Not anyone, Marcella said gently. You are different. You are different. But I wasn't listening anymore. I turned and walked away, the blood roaring in my ears. I didn't know how I got back to her private wing. I didn't knock when I entered her room. She looked up from her seat by the window, eyes widening. Maddie, tell me the truth, I said. My voice didn't shake. What truth? Vegas. Did you go out looking to get married that night? She froze. The pause was too long. You know I did. My stomach dropped.
And me?
Was I just convenient? She stood.
No.
You were lightning. I didn't expect you. But you were ready. Yes. You had papers ready. A plan. A bride. Not you, she said. But when I met you, it stopped being about the plan. I stepped back. So, I was just next in line? Don't say that, she snapped. You know that's not true. Do I? I was shaking now. You let me believe this was spontaneous. That it was some crazy, messy, mutual mistake. But it wasn't. You were waiting. You wanted it. I wanted out, she said, voice rising. Out of my father's grip. Out of the marriage he was forcing on me. I wanted freedom. And then I saw you. And you made me feel like I could have it. So you used me. I chose you. Same thing. No, she said, stepping closer. It's not. I turned away. You should have told me. I thought I had time. I thought I could earn the right to tell you. I looked back at her. But now I don't know what's real. Her face broke then. For the first time, truly broke. I didn't expect to fall for you, Maddie. My breath caught. Don't. I'm serious. You don't get to say that now. Then when, she demanded. When is it safe to admit that you changed everything? After you're honest. After you stop hiding. Silence.
Thick. Heavy.
The space between us stretched like something about to tear. I stepped forward. Did you ever think, even for a second, that I deserved to choose to? She flinched. That was answer enough. I turned to leave.
Her voice followed me.
It was real. That night. Every second since. Maybe it didn't start pure. But it's become something I don't know how to live without. I didn't turn back. I couldn't. Because if I did, I'd run to her. And I wasn't sure I could survive being hers, if she didn't mean it. The sirens were the first sound that broke the silence. Not loud. Not screaming. Just a low, pulsing alarm buried deep in the infrastructure of the Romano estate. The kind of warning system built not for show but for survival. I was still in Alessia's wing, pacing the same hallway I had stormed out of hours before, when Marcella appeared in the doorway, pale and breathless. We have to go, she said.
Now.
What? My voice cracked. Go where? They breached the perimeter. We don't know who. Security lost visual 5 minutes ago. Enzo says it's not a bluff this time. My blood ran cold. Alessia, she's already downstairs. I didn't ask questions. I ran. The halls were chaos, guards moving quickly, armed, communicating in clipped Italian over comms. Marcella stayed close, guiding me through a maze of stairwells and servants' passages I'd never seen before. When we reached the garage, Alessia was already waiting beside a matte black SUV, dressed in black, calm as a soldier before war. Our eyes met, and despite everything, the lies, the hurt, I felt something tighten in my chest.
She didn't speak.
Just opened the passenger door and held it. I climbed in. She slammed it shut, moved to the driver's side, and seconds later we were tearing through the lower gate of the estate, dust and gravel kicking up behind us. "Where are we going?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Safe house. One of mine. They won't find us there." "Who's they?" She didn't answer, which told me everything I needed to know. "You should have let me go when I asked," I whispered. "Then I wouldn't be in this." "You were always in this," she said, her knuckles white on the wheel. "The second I met you." "That's not fair." "Nothing about this is fair." The rest of the drive was silence, thick, choking. I watched her hands, the tension in her jaw, the way her eyes scanned every mirror, every car behind us. When we reached the safe house, it was almost dusk. An old hunting villa in the hills above Palermo, surrounded by forest and silence. We entered through a side door, lights off, weapons already stored inside. Alessia checked the perimeter herself. I stood in the middle of the dusty living room, arms wrapped around my body, trying to remember how to breathe. She came back in 10 minutes later, locked the door.
Didn't look at me.
"We're clear," she said. "For now." "Great," I snapped. "Now we can be trapped and mad at each other." That made her look up. "Do you want to scream at me?" she asked. "Hit me? Go ahead." "What I want," I said, "is to not feel like a pawn in someone else's story." "You're not a pawn. You married me as part of a strategy. And then I fell in love with you." I froze. "Don't say that. It's the truth. You don't get to use that word with me." "Why?" she demanded, stepping closer. "Because it makes you feel something? Because it hurts." My voice cracked. Because I let myself believe it could be real. Because I started to need you, and now I don't know what was mine and what was just part of your plan. She didn't answer, just looked at me like she was trying to memorize every piece of my face. "I didn't plan you," she said quietly. "I planned an escape. You were the escape. But then you became the reason I wanted to stay." I turned away. My hands were shaking. "I want to believe you. Then believe me."
How?
She stepped closer, so close I could feel her breath on my neck. "Let me show you who I am when no one's watching." "There's always someone watching," I whispered. "Not here," she said. "Not tonight." I turned.
Slowly.
Her eyes met mine. And for the first time since Vegas, I saw not the Mafia heiress, not the strategist, not the ghost of a girl running from her past, but the woman who had held my hand in the cellar. The one who had whispered soon like a promise. I should have pushed her away. I should have run. But instead, I reached for her. She caught my wrist, gently, pulling me closer. "You still want to kiss me?" she asked, voice low. "Yes," I whispered. "Even after everything?" "Especially after everything." Her lips met mine. This time, there was no hesitation. No distance. The kiss wasn't slow or measured. It was desperate. Hungry. A collision of truth and longing and pain. Her hands cupped my face like she didn't trust the world to hold me right. My fingers gripped the fabric of her shirt, anchoring myself to her. And when we finally broke apart, breathless, foreheads pressed together, it wasn't silence that followed. It was surrender. "You drive me insane," I whispered. "Good," she said. "Because I can't breathe without you anymore." We didn't sleep that night. Not in the way that mattered. We lay side by side on the floor, listening to the wind outside, the faint hum of security systems, the crackle of fire in the old stone hearth. Her fingers brushed mine every so often like a reminder. "I'm here. You're here. We're still here." I didn't say I forgave her. I didn't know if I did. But when she turned to me in the dark and whispered my name like a prayer, I didn't stop her. I let her speak. I let her be soft. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was surviving her. I felt like I was choosing her. The The silence that welcomed us back to the villa wasn't relief. It was waiting, like the house itself was holding its breath, knowing something had cracked and wasn't going to hold much longer. Alessia didn't speak on the drive. Her jaw was tight, hands steady on the wheel, but her eyes kept flicking to the rearview mirror, like she was still expecting ghosts to follow us. I sat beside her, trying not to unravel. The night in the safe house had changed something. Not fixed it, not made it simple, but changed it. I couldn't look at her the same way, not after she'd kissed me like that, touched me like I was something sacred. But the questions still lived in my chest. The lies, the half-truths, the danger that grew around her like thorns. When we entered the main gates, Enzo was waiting. His face unreadable, suit dusted with travel, gun at his side. He wants to see you, he told Alessia.
Now.
She didn't ask who. She already knew. Vittorio Romano. The king on his throne. The man who'd built this empire and raised Alessia inside its coldest walls. Take Maddie to the blue room, she said to Enzo, her voice low.
Keep her there.
No one in. No one out. What's going on?
I asked. She turned to me.
Her eyes were softer than they'd been in days. I'll explain soon. Just stay quiet. Please. That please sent a tremor through me. I wanted to argue. I wanted to follow her. But something in her expression, that mix of fear and fury, told me this was bigger than me. So I let Enzo take me. The blue room was nothing like its name. Dark walls, no windows, a security camera blinking red in the corner. It felt like a waiting cell dressed in luxury. I sat on the velvet couch, knees bouncing, trying not to spiral. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Then the door opened. But it wasn't Alessia. It was Vittorio. I stood instinctively, body going cold. He entered with the casual cruelty of someone who didn't need to raise his voice to cut your throat. Madison, he said. I imagine my daughter didn't tell you everything. I clenched my fists. She told me enough. Enough to fall for her? He asked, voice mocking. Enough to betray your own instincts. I didn't betray anything, I snapped. Except maybe common sense. And yet here you are, wearing my name, sleeping in my house. You didn't give me a choice. She didn't, he corrected. Alessia played you like a song, and now you're humming her melody in my halls. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to scream. But I stayed still. Why are you here? Because I'm giving you a way out. My pulse stuttered. What kind of way? He walked to the small bar in the corner, poured himself a drink, then held up a folded piece of paper. This is a contract. It will dissolve the marriage. Quietly. Permanently. In exchange, you'll receive safe passage back to America and compensation for your silence. What? Leave her. Disappear. She'll understand. Eventually. You want me to abandon her? I want to save her, he said. From herself. From this foolish, romantic illusion that you can survive in our world. I'm not afraid of you. I lied. He smiled. You should be. And what happens if I stay? Then you'll be used as leverage, he said simply. And sooner or later, you'll bleed for her choices. The paper trembled in his hand. I didn't take it. She loves me, I said. Maybe she does. But love doesn't win here. Power does. And right now, you are her greatest weakness. The door opened again. Alessia. Her eyes flicked from her father to me, then to the paper. Get out, she told him. We're talking. No, he said. You're feeling. And feelings make corpses in our line of work. Get out. Her voice was low, but final. He left, the door clicking shut behind him. She crossed to me immediately. Are you okay? I didn't answer. I just stared at the paper still in her hand. You knew he'd try this, I said. I told him not to touch you. He said staying with you means becoming a target. He's not wrong, she said, and that cut deeper than I expected. So what now? Now we decide. We. Yes, she said. Because I won't make this choice alone again. Not after Vegas. Not after the safe house. If you walk away, I'll let you. I won't stop you. But if you stay, I need to know it's real. I need to know you're choosing me. Even if it gets me killed? Especially then, she said. Because I'll die before I let that happen. The words landed heavy, like a promise she'd already signed in blood. I took a shaky breath. I'm still angry, I said. I know. I still don't trust everything. You shouldn't. But I can't imagine leaving you. Her eyes shone. Not with tears, but something sharper. Something like hope. Then don't. I stepped closer. This isn't forgiveness. It's a beginning, she whispered. And when I reached for her, she let me. She let herself fall into me like she'd been holding it in for years. The kiss was different this time. No desperation. No performance. Just truth. And when we broke apart, I saw her, all of her, and I wasn't afraid. The choice was made, but the cost hadn't arrived yet. It lingered in the shadows, waiting, like a storm still out at sea. I stayed. I told her I wanted this, her, us, whatever that meant now. But I hadn't seen it all. Not really. Not until the next morning, when Alessia took me into the heart of the empire she'd been born to rule, the part no journalist ever got close to, the part no lover was supposed to survive. The walk down to the archive wasn't long, but it felt like miles.
She didn't speak.
She didn't hold my hand. She just walked, keys in hand, face unreadable. She unlocked a steel door behind the West Wing, a door hidden by a false wall and guarded by a biometric lock. Inside, the temperature dropped. It smelled of iron, paper, and old secrets. The lights came on one by one, flickering to life with low mechanical hums. This is where I keep the records, she said, voice low. The accounts, the leverage, the insurance. Insurance against what? Everyone, she said, including my father. My skin chilled. She moved through the room like a ghost, pointing to files, hard drives, weapons locked in glass, passports with different names, all hers. You wanted to know who I really am, she said, pausing beside a desk. This is it. The empire I didn't ask for, and the blood I can't wash off. Why are you showing me this? Because you stayed. And you think this will scare me away? I think it should, she said, finally turning to face me. But if it doesn't, then maybe you're more dangerous than I thought. I stepped closer. You keep calling this an empire, but all I see is a cage. It's both. And you're still inside it.
No, she said.
I'm holding the keys now. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a small black box. These are the real ones, she added, placing them in my hand. To the gates. The vault. My car. Everything. Why are you giving me these? Because if anything happens to me, you need to know how to get out. The weight of the keys in my hand was too much. Too real. Too final. Don't say that, I whispered. Nothing's going to happen to you. You can't promise that here. Not in this world. I didn't realize I was crying until she stepped forward and wiped a tear with her thumb. I'm not afraid of what you've done, I said. I'm afraid of losing you. Her breath caught. Then hold on to me. But we didn't have time. The call came 10 minutes later. Marcella. Encrypted line. Her voice was tight-clipped, but underneath it, panic. They're not targeting you anymore, she told Alessia. They're coming for both of you. Tonight. Who? Alessia asked. The same family you stole from 5 years ago. The marriage alliance you broke. They know Maddie's not leverage, she's attachment. They want to destroy you, through her. Alessia didn't hesitate. She ended the call, grabbed my hand, and we were moving. This time there was no SUV. No convoy. No Enzo. Alessia didn't trust anyone anymore. We left through the north exit, through the vineyard under moonlight. By the time I realized where we were going, we were already off-road, climbing into the mountains in an old Land Rover that coughed smoke and rattled like bones. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere no one knows about. Not even Marcella. Why? Because I need one place in this world where no one else can follow. We drove for hours. The world fell away, the estate, the Mafia, the expectations, the headlines. The road gave way to dirt, and the dirt gave way to gravel, and finally, we reached a cliffside cabin, hidden behind overgrown brush, and a gate rusted shut. She opened it by hand, then parked beside the old stone house like she had done it 1,000 times. Inside, the place was small. One room, one bed, one fireplace. No electricity. Just candles, blankets, and silence. How do you even have a place like this? I asked. She pulled off her jacket, tossing it over a chair. My grandmother built it during the war. It was her safe house. Her place to vanish.
Fitting, I said.
You brought me to the one place where no one knows we exist. Yes. What are we now? She looked at me across the dimly lit room. Alone. And there was something terrifying and beautiful about that word. I stood there, watching her light the fire. The flames danced across her face, softening the sharpness, warming the cold angles. I wanted to hold her, and I wanted to scream. I'm angry, I said. I know, but I still want you. I want you too, she whispered. I walked to her.
Slowly.
Each step deliberate. Then prove it. She looked up.
How?
Not with words. My hand slid up her arm. With you. The kiss was fire. Nothing polite. Nothing sweet. It was teeth and heat and breath stolen from both of us. Her hands gripped my hips, pulling me against her. Mine tangled in her hair, pulling, anchoring, grounding. She pushed me back until my legs hit the bed, and we sank into the blankets, tangled, breathless. But we didn't rush.
Not this time.
We undressed each other slowly, reverently, like we were memorizing every inch. And when we touched, it wasn't about lust. It was need. It was survival. It was two broken things trying to make something whole in the dark. After, we lay tangled in silence. Her head on my chest. My fingers in her hair. I could still taste her on my lips. Still feel her in my blood. I'm not ready to lose this, she said. Then don't, I whispered. Fight for it. I am, she said. Every second. The fire cracked. The wind howled outside. And in the arms of a woman I should have run from, I felt safer than I'd ever been. The sunrise meant nothing. Not that day. Not when the world had already shifted in the night, cracked open like a fault line. The peace of the cabin was a dream we didn't get to keep. By the time Alessia's satellite phone buzzed, vibrating against the wooden table with a mechanical urgency, I already knew something was wrong. She answered it with sharpness in her voice, tension in her shoulders. I sat up on the bed, the sheet wrapped around me, watching her face as it changed, from lover to strategist to something colder. Something lethal. Say it again, she said, voice low and tight. A pause. How long ago? Another pause. Her hand gripped the edge of the table.
No.
No retaliation. Not yet. Do nothing until I say. She hung up without looking at me. I was already on my feet. Alessia? They hit Marcella's car, she said.
Bomb.
She wasn't inside. I exhaled. Jesus. But Enzo was. He's in critical condition. My chest went cold. They're escalating. No, she said. They're starting. I reached for her hand, but she was already moving, throwing on her clothes, sliding weapons into holsters I hadn't seen her bring. You said they wouldn't find us here. They didn't. Not yet. But they will. Soon. So what do? We run. One last time. But we didn't make it that far. We didn't even get to the gate. Because the second Alessia opened the front door, I felt it. The wrongness in the air. The silence. The trap already sprung. A shot rang out. Not close. Not far. Just enough to make her freeze. Back, she said.
Now.
I didn't move fast enough. There was a rush, boots on stone, shouted commands in Italian, and then the window shattered. Two men in black, faces covered, stormed the room. Alessia went for her gun, but I was faster or stupider. I screamed. They grabbed me. She fired. One went down. The other pressed a gun to my temple. Stop. I screamed. Don't move. Alessia froze. The man holding me didn't speak. He just pressed the barrel tighter. Her gun was still raised, breath ragged, murder in her eyes.
Let her go, she said.
Or I swear. Drop it, the man growled.
Now.
Don't, I whispered. Alessia. Drop it or she dies, he snapped. Alessia's jaw clenched. Then, slowly, she lowered the gun. The second it hit the ground, the man struck me across the head with the butt of his weapon. I heard Alessia scream my name, then everything went black. I woke up in darkness.
Cold. Damp.
My head throbbed. My wrists ached, tied behind my back.
My mouth was dry.
My ears rang. I tried to move, to see, to scream. Nothing. Until a door opened, and a flood of light hit me. A man entered.
Tall.
Imposing. He didn't need to introduce himself. I'd heard his name whispered before. Lorenzo di Costa. The heir of the rival family Alessia had refused to marry. The one she'd humiliated. The one who wanted revenge. So, he said, kneeling before me, you're the reason Alessia broke tradition. I stared at him. Said nothing. You don't look dangerous.
But you must be.
She chose you over me. She chose herself, I said, voice hoarse. You just couldn't handle that. He smiled. You're clever. That's rare. But also inconvenient. He stood. She'll come for you. And when she does, I'll end her. But not before she watches you die first. He left me in the dark. Time passed. I don't know how much. Hours.
A day.
But I held on to one thing. She'd come for me. Alessia would come. She had to. And then I heard it.
Chaos.
Yelling.
Gunfire.
Explosions. Footsteps. Then the door slammed open, and there she was. Covered in blood. Breathing like a storm. Eyes wild. Maddie. I could barely say her name before she was at my side, cutting the ropes, pulling me into her arms. I got you, she whispered. I've got you. I collapsed against her, shaking.
Crying.
But I was alive. We were alive. How did you find me? I asked, clinging to her. I didn't stop looking, she said. And I never will. You killed them. The ones who touched you won't breathe again. I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. Because I knew she meant it. And I knew, in that moment, that there was nothing she wouldn't do for me. When we finally got back to the car, stolen, bullet holes in the side, she held my hand in the passenger seat like she was afraid I'd vanish if she let go. You scared me, she whispered. You scare me, I whispered back. She smiled.
Just barely.
Still want to stay? After everything? After everything. Yes, I said. But not as your weakness. Not as your escape plan. She nodded. Then what? As your equal. Her eyes glinted. Then we burned the old world down together. I kissed her. Right there, in the blood-stained car. On the edge of a battlefield she hadn't chosen but had survived anyway. And I kissed her like she was the only thing left in the world worth saving. There was no going back. Not after blood on her hands. Not after the fire in her eyes when she pulled me from the darkness and carried me into the light again. The Maddie who stumbled into a Vegas marriage was gone. The woman who walked beside Alessia Romano now was someone else entirely, someone forged in fire, sharpened by love and betrayal and war. We returned to Palermo in silence, not because there was nothing to say, but because everything had changed. The Romano villa loomed in the distance like a fortress. The moment the gates opened, it felt different. Not like we were returning, but like we were coming to conquer. Marcella met us at the entrance, eyes wide as she took in the state of us. Bruises, cuts, dirt, fury. Is it done? She asked. Alessia nodded once. He's dead. And the retaliation? Handled. No more questions. Marcella just stepped aside. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. The staff avoided eye contact. The air buzzed with tension. Everyone knew what was coming, even if they didn't dare speak it. Vittorio was waiting in the study. Of course he was. Seated like a king. Surrounded by old books and older rules. He didn't stand when we entered. So he said, "You've returned." Alessia stepped forward. I stayed at her side. "I warned you," she said. "You didn't listen. You've brought shame to this family." "I've brought survival," she snapped. "You're confusing the two." "And now what?" he asked, standing slowly. "You think you'll rule?"
"No," she said.
"I will rule. You don't have the loyalty. I have the fear." "That's not the same thing." "It is when you've killed the last man who thought he could control me." Vittorio moved around the desk. His eyes were sharp, but slower now, like he knew the tide had shifted. "If you do this, you're no longer my daughter." "You were never my father," she said. "Only my warden." "And she?" he asked, nodding at me. "Your wife? Your weakness?" Alessia smiled.
"Cold."
"Beautiful. She's my partner. My weapon. My future." I didn't flinch. I stepped forward. "You tried to break her. You failed. Now get out of her way." His gaze lingered on me, calculating. But something in him knew it was over. The empire he built wasn't falling. It was evolving. And Alessia wasn't asking anymore. She was taking. "You won't survive," he said. "Not like this." "Watch me," she replied. And with that, she turned her back on him, on the legacy, on the name that had shaped her in cruelty. We walked out of that study together, and the doors that closed behind us sounded a lot like freedom. For the next week, everything moved fast. Alessia consolidated power. She called in debts, restructured alliances, absorbed what remained of the DeCosta territory. She didn't rule with fear alone. She ruled with strategy, precision, and behind her, beside her, always me. I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was her shield, her shadow, her voice when she needed to be silent. At night, we barely spoke. The weight of what we were building left little room for softness. But she held me like I was the only thing still real in a world of performance and peril. And when the final signature was inked, when the last obstacle was cleared, when her name was carved into the books as the uncontested head of the Romano family, she didn't celebrate.
"She found me."
In the vineyard, where the night was still and the stars didn't care who we were. I turned at the sound of her footsteps. She looked tired, powerful.
"Stunning." "It's done," she said.
"So now what?" I asked. "Now I choose what kind of queen I want to be. And what kind of wife." She reached for me. Her hands were warm. "One who doesn't lie anymore. One who gives you everything." "And what if I want more than that?"
"Then you'll have it," she said.
"Because this life is ours now. And I want to build it with you, not for the family, not for the name, but for us." I leaned in, forehead against hers. "Then let's make it ours." The kiss was soft. No fire, no fury, just love. And for the first time, there was no fear between us. Only truth. Only choice. I never thought I'd be the one carrying a gun through the hallways of a Sicilian villa, barefoot, heart pounding, breath tight in my chest. But love makes you do strange things. It teaches you new languages, like how to read silence. And the silence tonight wasn't peaceful. It was loaded, tense. Alessia was in a strategy meeting in the West Wing with two of her new lieutenants, men I didn't yet trust but hadn't learned to fear. I was supposed to be in bed. I almost was. But something kept me up. A sound, maybe. A shift in the air. A sixth sense that wasn't mine until her world made it mine. I walked through the corridor quietly. The guards were missing from their posts. That was the first red flag. The second was the door to the outer hall left slightly ajar, just enough to let in a breeze. I reached for the pistol Alessia had given me 2 days ago. Just in case, she'd said. I'd never fired it outside of training. I never thought I'd have to. But my fingers wrapped around it now like it was part of me. I moved through the East Wing and heard the third red flag, a voice I didn't recognize.
Male. Low.
Speaking rapid Italian into a phone. I crept closer, past the corridor that overlooked the garden. There, near the kitchen entrance, was a man dressed like one of our own. But I didn't know him, and he wasn't supposed to be there. He didn't notice me. He was focused on the door, the same one Alessia would come through when her meeting ended. I stepped out into the open. Hey. He turned. Too slow. I already had the gun raised. Put it down, I said, voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. He smiled, mocking.
Took a step toward me.
You won't do it, he said in English, thickly accented. You're the journalist wife. The soft one. I took one step forward. Try me. Another step from him. The safety came off with a click. That sound stopped him. For half a second. She made you a killer? He asked. No, I said. She made me brave. And then behind him I saw another figure. Second man. Knife in hand. Coming fast. I didn't think. I fired. Once. The first man went down. The second lunged, and I screamed, turning the gun just in time to shoot again. The knife clattered. He hit the floor. I was shaking. My knees buckled. I slid to the ground, breath shallow. Then I heard the rush of footsteps, voices shouting. Alessia's voice. She appeared like a storm. Enzo at her side, alive, stitched, furious. Maddie, she shouted. I couldn't answer. My throat was too tight. She saw the bodies. Then me. Then the gun. And I had never seen her look like that. Like something inside her cracked. She was on her knees in front of me in seconds. Hands cupping my face. Fingers trembling. Are you hurt? She asked. No, I whispered. But they were waiting for you. That one had a knife. You, she broke off, looked back at the bodies. You saved me. I didn't think, I said. I heard something. And I knew. You knew before anyone else in this house. Because I love you, I whispered. And I know when something is coming for you. Her hands gripped mine, pulling them to her chest. I should have never let you be unprotected. You didn't, I said. You gave me yourself. And you gave me this. I lifted the gun slightly. Her eyes filled. Not tears. Alessia didn't cry, but something deep and sharp and reverent. You've changed, she said. No, I whispered. I chose. There's a difference. She pulled me into her arms then, holding me so tightly I couldn't tell which of us was trembling more. I didn't care. I had never felt more alive, more worthy. Enzo, Alessia said behind me, clean it up, and find out how they got past the guards. Already on it. I want the name of whoever opened that gate. I want them found. Yes, boss. She turned back to me. Let's get you out of here. Where? Anywhere you want. No, I said. I want to stay. Tonight, I want to sleep in your bed. With you. Not as your wife. Not as your escape. But as your equal. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. We walked together through the hallways she once called a prison. And I realized then that I was no longer trapped. I had power. Because I had her. That night, in her bed, we didn't make love like we had before. We didn't need to consume. We needed to connect. To breathe. To promise in touches and whispers that we were no longer running. She kissed every scar she could find. I traced the one on her back with reverence. When she entered me, it was slow, patient, like she was building a temple from the ruins of everything we'd survived. I held her close, hands in her hair, whispering truths we no longer had to be afraid of. And when we lay together, sweaty and breathless and whole, she whispered against my skin, I'm not afraid to love you anymore. Good, I whispered back, because I never was. We slept through the sunrise for once. And when we woke, I saw the crown not on her head, but in her eyes. And she looked at me like I was wearing one too. Some endings don't come with explosions. Sometimes they arrive quietly, like a breath drawn after too long underwater. 2 weeks after the night Maddie saved my life, Palermo felt like a different city. The air was calmer. The whispers had changed. No one called me the daughter anymore. They called me Donna Romano. I'd fought for the title, bled for it, lost for it, and now it was mine. But the title wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the woman who wore it beside me. The one who hadn't just survived the world I came from, She'd walked into it on fire and dared it to change her. And it had. I stood on the balcony of the estate as the sun rose over the vineyard, the glass in my hand untouched. Below, the house stirred slowly, cautiously. It was still a place of power, but it didn't carry fear the way it used to. Because I didn't rule like my father. I didn't need to. Behind me, I heard the rustle of bare feet on the marble floor. Then arms around my waist. Warm breath against the back of my neck. "You're awake early," Maddie whispered. I didn't sleep. Nerves, memories. She didn't answer right away. Just leaned into me, anchoring me in place with nothing but her presence. I closed my eyes. "It's over," I said softly. "The war. The fear. It's done." "So what now?" I turned in her arms. She wore nothing but one of my shirts, her hair a mess, her eyes soft. "Now we decide who we want to be," I said. "Away from all of this. Or with it. But on our terms. Do you still want this life? Not if it doesn't include you. Then we rewrite it." She kissed me. Soft, slow, certain. Not like a goodbye. Like a beginning. The ceremony was private. Not because we had to hide, but because we didn't need an audience. We stood in the courtyard where my mother had once grown roses, the vines wild now but beautiful in their rebellion. Maddie wore white. I wore black. And when we exchanged vows, they weren't traditional. I didn't promise to obey. She didn't promise to follow. We promised to fight for each other, to challenge, to choose again and again. And when she said I do, I felt it in my bones. Not just as a wife, but as a woman who had never been chosen for who she was. Only what she could provide. Until Maddie. Maddie kissed me like I was salvation. Like we had invented the word love ourselves. And in that moment, the world went quiet. Peaceful.
Real.
We left Palermo 2 days later. Not forever, but enough. The power structure was stable. Marcella took over operations while we were gone, a surprise to everyone but me. I always knew she had steel in her bones. We flew to Paris first, then Capri, then Morocco. For the first time, I saw the world not as a battlefield, but as a playground, a canvas. With her hand in mine, the cities opened for us like love letters. She taught me how to laugh again, how to sleep without one eye open. And one night, drunk on French wine and too many kisses, she said, "Can you believe all this started with tequila and a fake Elvis?" I laughed so hard I cried. "It was never fake," I said. "That marriage was the most real thing I've ever done." "Even if I was your escape plan," she teased. I went quiet, then looked at her. "You were the door. But you also became the reason I didn't want to run anymore." "You know what's wild," she whispered. "That I'd marry you again. On purpose this time." I kissed her like an answer. Like a prayer. We came back to Sicily after 6 months. The estate had changed again. Lighter, somehow. Marcella greeted us with her usual sarcasm and 2 glasses of whiskey. "You two look like lesbians with too much money," she said. "We are," Maddie replied. "And you love it." The staff respected Maddie now. Not because she carried my name, but because she had proven she could carry herself. Rumor had it she once killed a man with her eyes. I didn't correct it. Sometimes fear was useful. We took control of the vineyards first, started a wine label that bore neither of our names, just a black rose on the bottle. Symbolic. Beautiful. Maddie wrote again. Real pieces. Raw and poetic. She published anonymously, but I saw what it did to her. Gave her back her voice. Her power.
Her joy.
And me? I rebuilt the Romano name from the inside out. Cut deals on my own terms. Made allies out of enemies. Turned a bloodline into something that didn't have to kill to be respected. One afternoon, years later, we stood in the same cellar where she had first touched my hand and asked what this was between us. She looked around the room and smiled. "I still remember the way you looked at me that night. Like you were mine?"
"No," she said.
"Like you were waiting for me to choose you." "And did you?" I asked. She stepped closer. "Every day since." We kissed. And this time, it didn't feel like survival. It felt like forever. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.